Again, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. I forgot to start recording, so we had to stop, and we're going to go ahead and start from 50 again. Verse 50.
$51?
50.
That's 51.
That's fine, just go.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And inform them about the guests of Abraham. When they entered, they said, "Peace." He said, "We are indeed apprehensive of you." They said, "Do not be apprehensive. We are indeed giving you the good news of a knowledgeable son." He said, "Are you giving me the good news despite my old age? Are you sure you are giving this good news?" They said, "We are giving you the good news truthfully. Therefore, do not resort to despair." He said, "And who would despair from his Lord's mercy except those who have gone astray?" He said, "What is your mission, O you messengers?" They said, "We are dispatched to the guilty people. As for the family of Lot, we will indeed save them all, except for his wife. She is indeed destined to be one of the doomed." Then when the messenger arrived at Lot's family, he said, "You are indeed people we do not recognize." They said, "We are bringing to you what they doubted, and we are bringing to you the truth, and we are indeed truthful. Therefore take your family during the night and follow behind them, and none of you shall look back, and fulfill this exactly as you are commanded." And we deliver this instruction to him, for indeed these people will be uprooted in the morning. And the people of the city came joyfully. He said, "Indeed, these are my guests. Do not embarrass me, and fear God, and do not disgrace me." They said, "Do we not enjoin you from contacting other people?" He said, "Here are my daughters, if you must." Indeed, it was no good, for they were blind by their intoxication. Then the thunder came upon them in the morning. We then made it upside down, and showered them with devastating mud-like rocks. Surely in this there are warnings for those who desire handsome men. Indeed, this is the eternal method. Surely in this there is a sign for the faithful. Surely the people of the woods were indeed unjust. We sought vengeance from them, and indeed both of them are kept in a profound record. And indeed the people who practice interdiction rejected the messengers. And indeed we presented to them our signs, but they were totally averse towards them. And they used to carve secure homes in the mountains. Then the thunder came to them in the morning. Nothing that they earned enriched them. And we did not create the vacua and matter, and what is between the two of them except truthfully. As for the hour, it is surely coming. Therefore, treat it with benign neglect. Indeed, your Lord is the Creator, the All-Knower. And surely we have given you the 7 pairs and the great Quran. Do not have an eye of admiration for what we have given some of them, and do not grieve over them, and lower your wings for the faithful. And say, I am a proven warner. In the same manner, we also revealed to the dividers, those who accept the Quran partially. Therefore, by your Lord, we will indeed question them all about everything they have done. Therefore, carry out what you are commanded to do, and turn away from those who set up partners for God. And indeed, we suffice the mockers, those who set up another God with God. They will soon find out. We know that you get angry because of what they say. Therefore, you shall glorify and praise your Lord, and join those who prostrate, and worship your Lord until you attain certainty.
Thank you, Marshall. Okay, are there any questions, comments, or observations? Anything? Any comments? Any observations? Any questions? This whole thing, this section of this chapter is on homosexuality between men, and so that's what God is talking about. It that once they become the majority, this is what's going to happen, and they are going to force their ways upon other people, and it's just this is something that we have to be aware of. That it's not that simple. That people say, well, they're not bothering anybody. This is what they're going to be the outcome of this practice, and this is not a very good and bright future.
Dr. Fazely.
Yes, Mariam, go ahead, please, but you have to speak louder.
Do you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Go ahead, please.
Okay. The verse 85. We did not create the vacuum matter and what is between the two of them except truthfully. As for the hour, it is surely coming, therefore treat it with benign neglect. What is?
Yes.
Would you be able to shed some light on what does it mean exactly by considering it or treating it with benign neglect?
Yeah, don't dwell in it. Don't dwell in it. A lot of people dwell in it.
Oh.
I mean, there are a lot of people who keep saying it's 2280 and stuff like that, and things that are basically not. It's not. Which one of us is going to live until 2280?
Yes. Okay. Got it.
So the ridiculousness of this argument is going to be something which is not conducive to any progress as far as worshiping God alone is concerned. So it's basically something that God says, look, forget about it and just go ahead and do your job. Your job is this, and we're not going to live until that time anyway, so what's the point?
That is, yeah. Okay, yeah, that makes sense, yes.
Yeah.
And in verse 87, and surely we have given you the 7 pairs and the great Quran. So
yes.
The 7 pairs are in addition to the Quran, or are they part of?
No, the 7 pairs are in the Quran. I think that those are the initials. The initials are using, as Rashad used to say, using 14 Quranic letters. I mean Arabic letters.
Yes.
So which adds up to 2 times 7, which is 7 pairs.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one interpretation of that. And and the other interpretation that I have is maybe there's a Hamim initial chapters from 40 to 46. There are 7 of them, and there are Hamim are 2 letters. So that could be another interpretation. But
okay, it's just it looks like it's in addition to the Quran, but actually they are part of the Quran.
They're part of the Quran, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Quran al-Azim, yeah.
Yes, it's. And may I ask another question?
Yeah, by all means, go ahead. Yes.
Sorry. So the verse 91, it talks about those who accept the Quran partially.
Yes, that's what we were talking about today. Yeah.
Right. And actually the verse before, it talks about al-muqtasimin, so the dividers.
Yes.
And so basically the division comes from the fact that people, I mean, at least the believers who say they believe in the revelation of the Quran, they are not accepting it fully. But each one or each group or each party has his or I mean their own understanding of certain part of the Quran. So, and of course, as a result, we are experiencing or witnessing all these differences and all these problems that we have in this life. So, and one of them is actually, we have a lot of people, they believe fully in the Quran, but then as soon as you start talking about the mathematics of the Quran, it's another story. So my question, I guess, is those who embrace the Quran, but for whatever reason they are not convinced by the mathematics of the Quran, are dividers. So as if they have accepted partially this Quran.
Yeah, I mean that's one way of looking at it. Yeah, obviously that's one way of looking at it, and the other idea is that um, a lot of people are in a rush to understand the Quran, and once they cannot find their answer to a question that they make up, and the question may be just meaningless question, then they resort to other sources besides the Quran, and so that's also accepting the Quran partially. Um, so
Yes,
one
yes,
has to, one has to be careful with that, and that's what I was saying, that today I was talking about that you have to take the whole Quran together, and in order to understand it, otherwise you cannot understand. It becomes a very confusing book. To a lot of
yeah,
people, it's very confusing, and a lot of people, if you talk to a lot of Muslims, so-called Muslims, they will tell you that Quran is not complete.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
That
They
they miss
without any
yeah,
without any compunction, they tell you that it's not complete. It's not fully detailed.
yeah.
Yeah.
I often tell them, therefore, the verse that says, and we revealed it or descended, and it's fully detailed.
Yes.
So as if basically they are, yes, they believe in the Quran, but they do not believe in that particular verse, because obviously they are going and looking elsewhere to find wherever that their ego wants to know, or is inspired to do. All right, yeah, it's a very when we read these verses, we can tell the gravity of of this habit of not being contented with what is in the Quran and trying to go and find explanations and clarifications in other resources, and then we ended up like with the hadith and stuff that they completely anyway conflict and contradict the Quran. So that's it's a very strong warning to us, and I hope we keep, I mean, God willing, we will always remember these verses and not being about among the dividers. So, but I wanted also to thank you about the Friday prayer. Um, Indeed, very, very inspiring. In particular, you turn on the TV and it talks only about the killing and the wars and this and that, and so it really reasoned with me, because you were talking about the happy life, the
Yes. Yeah.
so, and we think it's only in the hereafter, but actually it is not. It starts in this life.
Yes.
And anyway, there is also another verse in the Quran. I don't remember exactly the number, the number of this verse, where God says what He would do with your suffering, or your ما يفعل بعذابكم. I mean, what He would do with. God is not in need of our suffering, but we bring it with our own hands. But it's really made me reflect a lot, because indeed it starts in this life, and we can have a happy life if we just do not go astray. And yeah, but thank you so much. It was, for me at least, a very strong reminder. Thank you so much.
Well, I mean, you can see that life could be very painful to a lot of people.
It
And
is.
it can be if one doesn't have faith in God, then life is not a very sweet thing.
Yeah.
You cannot savor the so-called sweetness of life if you don't have any faith in God.
Yes.
And so that's the prerequisite for being able to enjoy life, to savor the sweetness of life. Otherwise, you can't do that. And so that's why people who are in heaven, that's what God says, that they have a pleasing life. And that's because that life is at God's presence, and so that life is void of boredom, and it is void of suffering that we usually go through in this life.
Yeah.
But if you also look at a lot of examples in the Quran that God is bringing for us is the case of we just read it, the case of Jacob, who suffered so much throughout his life. But he had a sweet life because he never lost faith in God. And even when his kids are blaming him for going mad and everything and going crazy, he still has faith in God, and that faith in God is actually keeping him alive and giving him this life that's worthy of living. And otherwise, his life was basically full of suffering. And the same thing with Job. Job was the same way. But he steadfastly persevered until God fixed him. And the same thing happened to Jacob. Finally, Joseph was found. His brothers was found, and so they all came together at the end, and the fruit of that steadfastness bore the happiness at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely, the patience factor is a determinant factor. But I think I always felt that when a person reaches that level of consciousness or piety or faith, they are shaken by nothing. I mean, even if there is maybe a nuclear war next to them, they are not. They are still at peace, serene. So, what I'm just trying to say, we have to work constantly on ourselves so that we get to that level where what is happening around us does not affect us a lot, and remember the mercy of God on us. I remember I read not a long time ago, I think it was in chapter 6, about how if it was not for God's mercy, He make us taste the tyranny of each other. So it's really amazing, I mean, and inspiring. But thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's really, I don't want to monopolize the audience. But,
No, that's fine. That's fine. I think nobody's asking any questions, so you are quite welcome to do it, to ask questions if you have any questions. I'm sure that a lot of other people probably have similar questions.
Yeah.
But they're just being shy. So anyway, yeah. I mean, if you when we read the stories of these prophets and messengers in the Quran, and the thing is that God is actually listening to your complaints. Okay, I mean, Moses complained to God about Pharaoh having everything, and you see, and it was a complaint. You see, it was whining basically. If somebody else is listening to Moses, why are you whining and complaining? Okay.
Yes.
So the same thing with Jacob. Jacob was, he was complaining to God, and he says, "I know of God something you do not know." So God listens to those kind of things, and He listens to the prayers, and so we can pray for anything we want to. Do not be embarrassed. Do not be shy. Just pray to God. And we saw it on the website. We have that 2186 that God said, when my servant asks you about me,
Yeah.
Tell them always nearby. So, and I respond to the caller when he calls, and they shall respond to me and believe in me that they may find guidance. So that's what God is telling us. So any time we need something, we ask God, and God's mercy and His love and His unlimited grace is absolutely mind-boggling. That that to some feeble human being like us, He listens to us individually, and that is the good news.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Doctor.
Thank you.
Salam, Dr. Fazely.
Walaikum salam, Nishat. Yes.
Can you please explain the first interpretation of the 7 pairs? You mentioned.
The first one is there are in the initials there are 14. I forgot to say that there are 14 sets of initials. Okay, and there are also 14 Arabic letters that are used to make up those initials. There are 28 letters in the Arabic alphabet. 14 of them are used. Like for example, you don't have Z in the Arabic alphabet. I mean in the initials in the Quran. Okay, but you have Noon, you have Alif. Okay, so there are 14 Arabic letters that are used. So that's the 7 pairs, and there are also they make 7 pairs of initials.
Okay, so there are 14 separate letters in those initials, and then because it says 7 pair. Can you explain again how it?
There are 14 letters, 14 Arabic letters, half of the alphabet, and there are also 14 sets of initials.
Okay, and then how did you come up with the times 2, which makes it 28?
I'm sorry?
Because Arabic letters are 28, you said. So
there are 28 Arabic letters in the Arabic alphabet. There are 28 letters.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Just 14 of them are used.
Okay. And where did we get the times 2? Because the 7 pair gives us the 14 letters. And then how did we go from 14 to 28?
I didn't go. I just said there were 28 letters in Arabic alphabet, and there are 14 of them, 14 specific letters that are used from the Arabic alphabet to make up the initials. That's what I...
Okay, got
it. Okay, so if I brought the example, for example, Jim is not in the thing, in the Arabic alphabet, in the Quranic initials. You cannot find Jim in there, okay?
Yes,
yeah, so it's not there.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, anything else?
Assalamualaikum, this is Parvez.
Walaikum salam, Parvez. Yes, go ahead, please.
I'm referring to verse 72.
Yes.
Whereby it says that they were blinded by the intoxication. So this behavior, this perverse behavior by these people, is it attributed to the intoxication? What kind of intoxication? Is that a mental aberration, or is that some kind of drug?
It's intoxication of wanting to have sex with men. Men wanting to have sex with men, that's an intoxication.
Oh, is that an intoxication? Okay.
Yes.
So it's basically a perversion in the mind.
It's a perversion of the mind, exactly.
So it's not intoxication in the sense of taking alcohol or something?
No, it's not something like that, no.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. But there is another place in the Quran that also God says that we made them blind. So they went blind. After they came rushing to Lot and demanding that he should give up his guests, they became blind.
God took their vision away.
Yeah, God took their vision away.
But this is not the community of Lot. It's another community.
This is the community of Lot.
This is the community of Lot. So they were
Yes.
completely destroyed at the end.
They were what?
They were destroyed at the end. They were wiped out.
Yes, they were wiped out. Of course, they were wiped out. That's what God says here. Okay, and then He says right here that surely in this there are warnings for those who desire handsome men. This translation is unique only to this translation. Nowhere else you can find this translation. Okay. Verse 75 has not been understood in this way. Okay, so the story of Lot and what happened to the people of Lot, it should be a lesson. It's a warning to people who are committing this kind of abominable act.
So this way of life will bring us destruction also.
It's what?
This way of life will bring us destruction at the end also. It will repeat again.
Yeah,
God
yeah. I mean, they're
wipe
repeating
us
it.
out.
They're repeating it exactly. They're repeating it. But God says this should be a lesson. This should be a warning. Okay. It's a sign.
Mhm. So it is such an evil act that God at the end had to wipe them out. There was no other solution.
Yeah.
And this can happen once more again.
Well, I mean, they got to the point in their advancement towards this way of life that they became the power in that community. And they basically had they wielded all the powers in that community, and they were in charge. And so that's why they were saying that these are our laws, that you cannot contact anybody else, that we can do anything we want to within this close community that we have, and we want to have this kind of lifestyle. And furthermore, once they came in there, they say, remember now we read about this, they say that when he says that these are my daughters, it is purer for you if you take them. And they say, don't fool around with us, you know exactly what we want. Okay? So they were completely uninterested in the normal way of sexual contacts. They just wanted handsome men, and that's what God is saying here, that this is mutawassim. If you look at the word wasim is somebody who's good looking, some boy or man who's good looking in Arabic. So, but they have not translated this way.
And they became the dominant force in that society, right?
They were the dominant force, exactly. They were in charge.
The normal became abnormal for them.
This become the basically the default. Yeah.
I remember there was another verse where they say, "Oh, these people want to be righteous."
They want to be pure.
Pure.
Yeah.
Even that was adverse to them.
Yeah.
It's a horrible condition of existence.
Well, I mean, that's as I said, that's the future is not bright because,
hell is surrounding us.
Yeah, once they become majority, then because now we have cloning and all kinds of stuff. Now wait for that to become that to some extent the childbirth, the way that we have it, is not going to be this way. It's not going to be the normal way of having a mother and a father in a household and children, offsprings, that way, created that way, which is the normal, natural way of doing it. they can go into cloning and all kinds of stuff, and that kind of society structure of the society is going to decay eventually. But my point is that they would become majority by doing that. They can have offsprings in forms of clones and things like that. So, as I said, the future is not that bright.
Yeah, eventually there will be imbalance and the whole system will be destroyed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Then God will have to act on that to bring the balance.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's what happens, you see, because when you have clones, it's like you make a copy of a copy. And so that genetic information gets lost, and then the offsprings after 3 or 4 generations becomes obsolete, and you cannot use them anymore.
No, there's no creativity. There's no creation anymore.
No, there is no creation.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Salam, Dr. Fazely.
Walaikum salam. Yes, sure.
So how do the other translations translated this mutawassim?
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, you can go to Rashad first. You go to Rashad's translation. Let me see how he did it. New window. Okay. 1575. Yeah. 75, it says, this is a lesson for those who possess intelligence.
Interesting.
That's his understanding of what Tabassim was. I think I translated that way too. But anyway, it finally came to me that that's not the thing, because people who use their intelligence, they already know that this is a bad thing to do.
Yeah.
Why should it be a lesson to them?
Okay.
Intelligent people understand it.
From a word perspective, the mutawassim and intelligence, is there any relationship?
Well, yeah, mutawassim means somebody who makes distinction. That's another one. But distinction is amongst handsome boys and non-handsome boys. But because the word wasim in Arabic means a good-looking boy, a handsome boy. Yeah.
Interesting. You mentioned that they became blind. Did they literally become blind?
Yes, they literally became blind. Yes. Yes.
Because there is a saying that sometimes it says somebody got blind by rage or lust, and
they became blind. They lost their sight.
Their sight. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
And also here in this chapter it said, "Don't look back. None of you should look back." Okay. In the Bible, actually, they have that his wife actually turned back.
Yeah.
Okay. So.
I remember.
So all of these. Yeah, go ahead.
In old movies, I don't remember, a long time ago, that there was a movie that when the wife turned, then it turned into like stone or mud or something. Yeah.
Yes, a pillar of salt.
Pillar of salt. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any other questions or comments or observations?
Dr. Fazely, sorry.
Yes.
You were talking about looking at the Quran as a whole, and that's really key, because personally for myself, when I read some verses just by themselves, it's hard for me to understand. especially the verses about, like, when you see disbelievers, kill them, or, if you just take them and look at those verses by themselves, it comes across like all the things that people are doing, like, cut their hands or, kill them and all that kind of stuff. But when you look at the Quran as a whole, when it talks about you cannot aggress, if they offer you peace, you cannot just, kill them because you're looking for gains and stuff like that. And it's always important as we're reading the Quran to remember that, because, when you look at individual verses, it might not come across as it should be. And you've been always emphasizing on, connecting the dots and looking at things like the one about cutting the hands and feet. It really bothered me for a long, long time. And until, we talked about disconnecting all the communication and so on. So, yeah, it's, as you said, Quran can become very confusing. And in some instances, you feel like there's contradiction there. But if you look at it as a whole, it explains a lot of those confusion.
Well, punishment of the theft in the Quran is very clear, because we just read it. We just read it in chapter 12. The story of Joseph and his brother. His brother, what they wanted to do is they wanted to say that he was a thief. Okay? And so Joseph, who was a prophet, knew what the punishment for the thief was, that he takes him into custody. And so he asked his brothers, what is the punishment for the thief? Because they were sons of this prophet Jacob, and they knew, and Jacob was grandson of Abraham. You see? And then God says in the Quran, he tells Muhammad that then we inspired you to follow the nation of Abraham. Okay? So if he did that, he cannot have anything else but take the thief into custody. There's no other punishment. So that's how you connect the dots in the Quran. Otherwise, as I said, you're right. If you just read that verse, and then it's as soon as it says qata, oh yeah, well, cut off. Okay, let's so cut off the fingers of these people, the 4 fingers, and and leave them there useless. Can you imagine that?
Yeah, I mean, there was all this talk about, a while ago, earlier on, that the justification for not cutting was like the verses in Surah 12, where the women cut their fingers.
Yeah, exactly.
That was good, but this one, like talking about the taking into custody with Joseph, honestly, it didn't dawn on me until the last Quran reading where we read Surah 12, and that was for me more compelling than the other reasons. So yeah, it's very interesting, and as you said, every time we open the Quran, we have to ask for God to increase our knowledge, because otherwise, we read pieces here and there and then cannot connect the dots. And it causes confusion. Sometimes it causes doubt in your mind, and eventually, God forbid, loss of belief.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anything else? Any other comments or questions or observations? So are you all having a good Ramadan?
Yes, alhamdulillah.
Very good, very good. Okay, inshallah the rest of it will go smoothly for everybody. And so as I said, this is a great month, and whatever you need, you can ask God. Any prayers that you need, okay? He's always nearby. He responds. So we have to respond to him in kind, and everything's going to be okay, inshallah. Don't worry about it.
Inshallah.
Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. Yes?
Yes, I had a question. It's pertaining to this verse 4119. And it's the Shaitan. He said, I will command them to distort the creation of God. I always understood that to mean like if these things which you were just discussing about, transvestite and so on.
Yes.
Can it also apply to circumcision?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Of course. Well, you see, God says very clearly in the Quran, He says that in case of Adam, He says that once I perfect him and blow into him from my spirit. Okay? So God created a perfect man. He didn't leave that to human beings to make it perfect. So anything that we are changing from God's creation, it's an abomination against God.
Yes, of course. But I guess I always understood it that, you followed the nation of Abraham. And that's what I thought circumcision was always,
No. Yeah, that is done in the Old Testament, and I think that those are suspect.
Right. Okay. Very good. Thank you so much. And I loved your sermon today. I really appreciate it. It was also inspiring for me as well. Thank you. I always appreciate your reminders.
Very good. Okay, anything else? Any other comments or question observations? Any discussions?
I was just wondering about verse 53. The good news of a knowledgeable son. I mean, it was not just a son being given, a knowledgeable son, right? That
son, yes.
Yeah, it's just not just another son. It's
This is the case of Isaac. This is the case of Isaac. Yeah.
And it does show that, of course, all knowledge comes from God. I mean, people live their life seeking knowledge, trying to be knowledgeable. But here is a child being born with knowledge, or who would at least receive the knowledge from God.
Yeah, I mean, your case of John, for example, when you read it, it says that he says we gave him wisdom even as a child.
Exactly.
Okay? So God does these things, okay, and He made Jesus speak in the crib. So these things that looks to us as impossible are possible, and God shows these signs to people that they may reform and believe and turn to God.
Yeah, unfortunately, people don't believe in that, really.
Yeah, I know. It's very unfortunate. Yeah, very unfortunate. Well, people don't believe in 2 + 2 = 4 either. So we are at that stage of life right now.
Yeah, they believe in nonsense.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, if there are no more questions or comments, we'll finish for tonight. And let me see, I got a couple of messages here.
There's some question on the chat, I think. Somebody posted it there.
I'm sorry?
There's a question on the chat, I think.
Oh, there's a question on the chat? Yeah, what about this? Another question. This is a statement. Satan says, "My Lord, you have willed that I go astray." Well, he's lying. Okay. All right. Okay, so if there are no more questions, we'll... Okay. So we have a request for an al-Fatah. So we'll do 3 of them tonight, okay? Bismillah ar-Rahman.